the reason I wanted to dive into this, because every gym owner wants to have a you in their business. Boys, welcome to the FMA podcast. You guys are coaches, but in more of a leadership role in Madison's.
So my title is General Manager.
So I was previously a senior coach, and now I've transitioned into Head of Sales and Community. If you're a gym owner and you want A-star people, then you need to, one, deliver like an A-star product. You need to be an A-star person yourself as well, because people want to aspire to be that person.
I don't want to do sales, I don't want to do marketing because I'm a coach and we just want to be great coaches, or they feel a bit icky around sales.
Don't you put that down to the unknown? Like I remember when I was one-to-one, it's like, I'm not a salesman, I don't want to do that. I'm sort of obsessed with development. Everything I do is looking at how can I be better.
You see that in the numbers and where Madison's is today, like very, very successful gym.
On a really good day where I'm just office-based, then there might be like a full 8 hours there dedicated to just chasing, marketing, sales, and that's where we see the good stuff.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by Harbiz, the all-in-one management platform for fitness professionals. Are you a studio or boutique fitness owner looking to optimize your customer experience, or a fitness professional ready to scale up their business? With powerful features like client management, scheduling, billing, and programming, Harbiz empowers fitness professionals to grow their businesses and increase their client base. Each professional receives a customized introduction to integrate seamlessly into the platform, ensuring they deliver the best possible experience to their clients through the client app. And if that's not enough, Harbiz offers a free trial to see if they're going to be the perfect fit for your business. Ready to scale up? Learn more at Harbiz or click the link in the show notes. Boys, welcome to the FMA podcast. Thank you for literally popping in, as you guys are our next door neighbours. So I'm really looking forward to this episode, and the reason why is kind of there's 2 points and 2 angles where I kind of want to go from this. Like, obviously you guys are coaches, but in more of a leadership role in Madison's, and we're going to give a bit of a background about Madison's to those that don't know. But the reason why I'm looking forward to doing this episode, again, is those 2 angles. One is for any coaches that are aspiring to develop in their career who are listening to this, but also for the gym owners listening to this on finding, nurturing, and developing the right staff so they can get people just like you. And I would say, kind of A-star, A players in the business that can help take a lot of the load off of, the core business owner and help assist grow the business and develop it in many ways. So yeah, thank you guys for coming in. Let's just do a quick intro. So it'd be great to just get a bit of an intro about yourself and kind of how long you've been in the industry and how long you've got into the industry. So we'll start with you, Jake, and then go to Tyler.
Yeah, sweet. So I've been in the industry for 10 years now.
Nice.
So initially I went to university to study psychology. But I found that within a few months, my love for sport and sports science was, just still there. Still really wanted to study it. So I decided to switch course, study sports science at university for 3 years. And then following on from that, I went and studied a master's in strength and conditioning. So my dream was always to work with elite athletes, work in elite sports, which is something that I did. But then over time, I realized that the real fulfillment came from helping people within general population groups and kind of seeing those smaller wins, the improvements in like mental health, physical health. Whereas when you're working with elite athletes, they're already at the top of their game. So I didn't kind of get that same buzz that I get now.
Nice. And how long have you been at Madison's for?
3 years now.
And so were you one of the first employees of Madison's? Because I know you were working with Jerome, who was the owner of Madison's before, at the place called the Performance Project, which is no longer there. But you were kind of one of the day one employees for Madison's when it first opened, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I was the first coach on board. Met Jerome. I saw the advert come up for Madison's. I knew that I was kind of ready to leave my previous job, but wasn't 100% sure what was next. But I knew it was still something related to the fitness industry. So then whilst I was visiting my girlfriend's family down in Eastbourne, got a targeted ad, worked really well. Applied for the job, met Jerome, I think literally maybe the next day or the day after. We hit it off and I'm here 3 years later.
Nice. And I want to dive into that interview process and the onboarding of staff a little bit later, because I know that's a role that you guys now play when bringing new people in. But before we do, just to go to you, Tyler, if you can give a bit of an intro about yourself in terms of how you got into the industry, how long you've been working for Jerome, but also Madison's for, And then also, if you could give us a bit of an overview of the model of business that you guys have got next door in terms of the services, the session types that you do, for those that aren't aware.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry about 12 years now. So I started off I was playing semi-professional football, and it was good to sort of have some coaching on the side. So I'll do one-to-one coaching just from a pure gym at the time. I'd also worked at Harrow Boys School, so in that private sort of school environment. So working with the sort of elite boys there in their conditioning classes.
Nice.
Alongside that, doing my PT stuff, playing football 3 times a week.
So you've been in the industry 12 years, you said. You did like semi-professional football conditioning. When did you meet Jerome?
So met Jerome 4 years ago. We started at Performance Project. So Jerome had been operating for a few years.
Nice.
I'd just freshly come back from Australia, looking to get into a small group training facility. Saw the ad, similar to Jake, what he said there. Met with Jerome, hit it off. And before you know it, just started working. Sort of everything just started moving really quickly.
And you started there just as kind of like a baseline PT, kind of entry level into the business at that stage, and you've managed to develop massively over the years. So you are now the head coach of Madison's, and what are kind of your responsibilities of the business that you kind of take off Jerome's shoulders? Yeah.
So my title is general manager. So some places will have sort of similar role, but they'll call it head coach. For us, we've got general manager, sales, and head coach, which is Vincent. So for me, a big focus is the team, just making sure they're performing well, as well as retention, onboarding, helping Jake with sales, overseeing all things at Madison's, really.
Nice, awesome. And Jake, I actually forgot to ask, which is very bad of me, what is your job role at Madison's now? Because it's recently changed, right?
Yeah. So I was previously a senior coach,
and
now I've transitioned into head of sales and community.
Nice, awesome. And what's really, really cool about that specific role is that your day-to-day is just going to be focused on speaking to new people that inquire, obviously selling them in. But then, am I right in thinking that you are then responsible for overlooking those people as they start their initial journey within Madison's? So when they're doing is it a 30-day trial, an 8-week? What's the sort of, or does it change from time to time in terms of the front end offer?
Yeah, so we do have a 30-day trial, or there's the option for a 60-day trial as well. But typically that is like our core offering for our trial process. So we have that split into classes as well as small group personal training as well.
Yeah, and so are you then looking after those people that are going through the trial underneath that job role?
Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll have specific touch points that me and Tyler will look after. So there'll be regular check-ins with those members over the course of the 30 days. And then over the course of that 30 days, towards the end, that's when we obviously want to make sure that they're having the best possible service and nurture them then into a full-time member who's going to hopefully be with us for many, many months and years to come.
Yeah, and it's a really cool job role to have within the business. And not many gyms will have that, where it's one person really dedicated, one to sales, but also community. And I actually really like that they're both gelled together, because it means that you really have to care about the people that you're bringing in, because your objective isn't just sales, it's also community. So you kind of have to guard the sales at the same time, right? You've got to bring in the right people to make sure that the community is going to be good. Whereas if it was just sales and not community, your goals and perception might be different to what you need to achieve. It might just be get everyone in. But now, because you've got that community element, you've kind of got to bring the right people in. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you have those initial discovery calls with those prospects who are looking to come in and train at Madison's, it's not just about them finding Madison's as the right fit, but they need to be the right fit for us too. And I think that's equally as important, because then it's going to work. We're going to get the most out of them. They're going to enjoy their time and then be an integral part of that community as well.
And before that, your coaching, you were just doing the large group, because there's it's Madison's, you've got large group training, which is 1 to 15, or does it depend on the session type? How does it work?
So it depends on the session type. So you've got strength sessions and you've got conditioning classes. So anywhere from 18 to 24, depending on what
okay, cool. Yeah, so if it's more like a cardio focused one, you can get more people in. If it's strength, it's going to be less, but still a large group. And then you've got the PT side of things, which is 1 to 4. You predominantly did the large group stuff, and is it fair to say, because you're quite like an energy giver, you've got like Duracell bunny vibes in terms of like when you're like there's a difference between both of the services that you offer. Like I would say the large group seems like higher energy, higher paced, and the small group is obviously more personalized and focusing on the person's individual pace.
Yeah, 100%. I think it just kind of came to life that way. I think in my previous style of coaching, when I was working with elite athletes, was focusing more on strength and conditioning, I could go through a whole session and I'm not shouting on a mic, I'm not shouting out loud, I'm being very quiet and making sure that everything's being done precisely, correctly. But now I do that alongside the energy dealing as well. It just kind of happened. I don't know, the first moment I got on that mic, it just felt natural, and that's kind of what I've done ever since. Yeah.
And so with your job role, sales and community, are you still doing some coaching, or are you going to be off the gym floor most of the time now?
I think I'll still be coaching like a lot more, maybe like peak hours where needed as well. Just because I think it's great to get, keep informed with how the product's evolving, make sure my foot's in the door. And if I need to step in, if coaches are going on holiday, or if we just need more kind of power there with the coaching floor, then, I'll be there to step in and help as well. Plus I enjoy it, so I wouldn't want to kind of give it up completely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think when you do something less, you actually enjoy it more, but I think I also deliver better when I coach less.
Nice. And as general manager, you said that, just going back to you, Tyler, you said that obviously your job is to look after teams. So there's a team of 7, is that including yourself, or?
Yeah, but a growing team. So yeah, making sure that they're okay. They can't perform properly if they're not feeling so good. So I just want to make sure they're okay, and we're looking after their development in their roles, and just they're having a good time while they're coaching.
And on a weekly basis, is there a structure or workflow that you have to ensure that each individual team member is hitting whatever they need to be hitting within targets or KPIs? Like, do you have a structure for yourself where you're going to check in with each person, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so I've got my own sort of checklist that I know I'll check in with the team once a month for sure. And then we'll just have casual check-ins throughout the week.
Yeah.
So just keep those very informal, just catch up over coffee, just going for walks. I'm sure you've seen us walking past here a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, I just want to be around the team. The more time I spend with them, I feel like they receive it well.
So it's a weekly check-in, which is informal, like a walk, a coffee, like not too much. And then the monthly, is that what are you diving into on the monthly specifically?
More about performance. So what do they feel they're lacking? What do they need more of? Do they need more of my attention, for Jake's attention? Do they need to work closely with Vince for maybe something that's gym floor related? So it could be anything. But yeah, in those sort of monthly check-ins, it's a good time for them to bring me something
Nice.
and really take care of their own development.
And in terms of development, it's been, I think you said 4 years, and again, you've grown massively, right? You went from PT to general manager of a very, very successful personal training gym. And what skills do you feel like maybe you have acquired within that time frame? Because do you think you had all of the skills on day one, or is that something you've had to develop to get to the point where you can now run and manage the team, the business, the day-to-day, the service, assist with sales and everything that you do? Did you have to develop those over time? And I don't know, how did you do that? Was it just experience? Run me through that.
Yeah, for sure. I think developing over time, and still to this point developing. I've only been in this role not even a year. So yeah, always developing, reading many of those books that you got up there on the shelf,
nice.
And just trying to learn from people. I'm lucky to have Jerome in his role. I'll learn from his mistakes that he's made, and he'll tell me, that's not going to work, or that's going to work. And I'm sort of obsessed with development. Everything I do is looking at how can I be better.
And is that outside the gym as well? Yeah.
So personal things that I want to be better at. I think we spoke about it many times before, like public speaking. So it's like, how can I get better at that thing?
Yeah.
And I'll go and find a way to do it.
Nice. What's the driver for you for looking to, and just start with that. What would you say the driver for you to develop outside the gym as well? Because again, I've seen your growth in the last couple of years. What is it that drives you to be better?
I think that's quite a simple answer. It's just being the best that you could truly be. Why wouldn't you? I don't see why you would sort of go through life without trying to be the best version of yourself. So it's quite cliche, but that I think it's essentially that, being the best I can be for myself, for those around me. And
you mentioned you've learnt a lot from Jerome, and that could be potential errors or mistakes or insights. Is Jerome like a mentor to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. It all started, we used to drive into Brighton together, so I'd spend so much time with Jerome.
Because he used to live in Brighton, he doesn't anymore, but so you would literally drive in together on a daily basis and just talk. Yeah.
So for me, and that probably influenced me getting to this point today. Spending so much time with him allowed me to learn from him, having these good chats, very casual, but we're sort of always talking about certain things. And it's like, okay, that's sparking my interest.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going and going and going. just always learning. So yeah.
Do you think you have ownership mentality where obviously Jerome owns a business, but you're very in on this business, like invested?
Oh gosh, yeah. So Jerome keeps saying to me, I want you to run this place as if I'm not here. I've obviously got a lot of learning to do, but in my head it's like that's a challenge, and I'll show you I can do it.
Yeah. And I suppose it just sounds like all the time you've spent with Jerome, like just driving into work, or just it's the informal stuff that seems like where a lot of the lessons have come from. And the reason I wanted to dive into this, because every gym owner wants to have a you in their business and a Jake in their business as well, who can run the business when they're away, because Jerome could 100% go on a holiday and I think things would be absolutely fine, right? Like, he's not very involved in the day-to-day. I see him around all the time, but obviously you've got the sessions running, all the coaches taking place. I see you like shadowing the sessions, and everyone would love to have someone like you. And the question is like, how do I get someone like that? How do I nurture that person? And I think the answer you're giving is just spending time around them and just connecting, because people kind of want like the checklist version of what I should do to get this person here. But it sounds like there is no streamline approach. It's just spend time with that person, connect, talk about the business, get them involved, mentorship, ownership mentality to get there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think you got to find the right people. Me and Jerome get on well on a personal level. There are other good small group gyms out there, but I don't think I can necessarily work for them because it just wouldn't be a right match on sort of a personality level.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most important things is finding the right people. And someone that sort of can take your vision and take it forward.
Yeah, and if you could give advice to the gym owner listening now of what to potentially look out for or do to help develop someone, maybe in your shoes 4 years ago, is there anything that you would recommend they should be doing potentially?
Showing people enough of the business so that they know what else is going on. So some coaches, they won't know what me and Jake are doing. And it's something I want to do a better job of, like, this is what when I'm not in there coaching with you, or when I'm not talking to you one-to-one about your development, this is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
Get them to understand what's important for my role, for Jake's role, for Jerome. So as long as they can see that, I think they're sort of bought into the grand mission.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just about, are they the right person? What do they want now? So Jake moving into his sales role, I don't want that. And me moving into the general manager role, he didn't want that. So it's kind of worked out perfectly because we're not going for the same job. But
so having the transparency in the business where you've kind of got a look under the bonnet of what's going on has been good for you to get you invested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And you've got that natural skill set. Like Jake, you said he's a Duracell bunny. He's got all the energy in the world, so he can talk to people all day. So but for me, I like those intimate relationships with the team and sort of focusing on numbers. So that I'm better suited to something like that.
Yeah, and Jake, just to flip back, let's kind of move into a little bit of sales. So how long have you, because Jerome, like, you now run the team, you now sell all the inquiries. So Jerome has done a really good job of being able to remove himself from a lot of the day-to-day that takes place. And I'm sure he ran through what he does and is responsible for in his own podcast that he was on. But he's in a very unique position where he's got, again, you running the team, you doing the sales, and the business can grow without him having to kind of be in the trenches. Now, as I say that, he is very involved in the business. He's at Minko, he's at Madisons on a day-to-day basis. When I walk past the office, I see him pretty much every day. But some real key elements that are so crucial in the business are now being run by you guys, which is awesome. So to go back to sales, like, how long have you now been the sales guy for Madisons? Is it just you that sells, or?
Yeah, and then if not, like, Tyler can jump into that as well. So whether that's through our trialists or converting people then into full-time members.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, officially, I've been in the role for a couple of months now, but kind of been doing this like drips and drabs of it for the last kind of 12 months or so. But this is now where we're going to push it onto the next level so we can then drive the growth of the business forward as well.
Nice. How many sales or sign-ups do you do roughly a month? I know it's only been a couple of months, but what's your sort of average?
So generally we're hitting somewhere between like 20 to 30.
Nice.
And that will be trialists. And then after that point for members then moving on to like a direct debit membership, that kind of varies. What does that look like at the moment?
So our target's 20.
Yeah.
So we sort of follow the structure like...
So 20 recurring members every month, or 20 front-end sales, sorry.
Sales.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
we sort of got some numbers that we like to work off. 100 leads is a must. 30 trials, 20 sales into
nice.
memberships. So
nice, awesome.
we know that every month, me, Jerome and Jake are looking at that thinking, let's go.
Chase it.
So the target is 66% of conversion rate to trial to back end. If it's 30 front end, 20 memberships, is it 66%?
Oh,
quick maths on the podcast.
Based on what we've seen from our information, because that's all that matters. If we've got 100 leads, we're likely going to get 30 trials.
Yeah,
and that's going to give us that end number.
And 30% is a nice conversion rate there. What we like to see is typically between 20 to 40%, and we'd say you're doing a pretty good job. What does the sales process look like? So someone enters their name, email, and telephone number into a funnel, into the website. What does that process then look like afterwards? Run me through that.
So once we have that information, there'll be the option for them to like book a call directly with us. And then from that point, if they haven't done that, then I'll chase them as soon as possible. So once the lead is hot, if they come in like right this second, I might be missing one now, so I might have to go back.
Yeah.
But then my objective will be to get on the phone as soon as possible, call them, and then make sure we get that sale.
Nice. So they book in, but if they don't, you call them.
As soon as possible.
Cool.
So if that comes in, that's going to be like the first port of call. If I come in and I see someone's booked in my day of work, then I need to get on that as soon as possible. So that'll be the process of that. So they'll either book a call or I will call them straight away. And then it will be based on, I guess, if they've left information about what their goals are, it will be diving into that as soon as possible and understanding what their pain points are, what their motivations are for applying to train at Madison's, and then seeing if we're the right fit and if we're able then to help them achieve those goals as well. So I think that's kind of the process, is understanding what they need, what their goals are and their motivations, and then also then selling them the product, which I know is going to work. I just need to get them over the line to then accept that they want to train at Madison's.
And do you sign them up over the phone mostly?
Yeah, so what we do is use like Stripe, so that we'll be able to put in details and stuff like that, and they'll be able to get signed up as soon as possible. So once that's done, the next port of call would be to book them in for their one-to-one evaluation session if they've signed up for a PT trial.
Perfect.
And then once that's done, we'll take them through the process of getting them trained by one of our senior coaches to give them a little bit of a taste of what's to come.
Yeah, let's circle back, because I want to dive into that in more detail.
Okay,
you're getting ahead.
No worries.
I want to go that sales process quickly. So how many times, let's say that lead comes in, they don't book in a call, how many times are you calling that person before you decide to stop pursuing the lead, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of varies. I guess it depends. Sometimes straight away, like over email, it's like I might have chased them up 5-6 times, and then they're like, "There's someone, stop calling me."
Yeah.
Fair enough. They clearly don't want it, but it could be between like 5 to 10 follow-ups. To be honest,
and I think that's kind of what I wanted to hear, because like so many people will get a lead, call once or twice, and go, I don't want to cold call this person, but I'm sure there's been many people where on the 9th follow-up, then you get through, then they sign up. So what would you say to anyone that is like skeptical about having a persistent follow-up process? Because like you've just said there, 100 leads is a non-negotiable. You've just said 5 to 10 follow-up touch points. So potentially we're looking at like a lot of follow-ups every single month. I don't want to do some quick maths and get it wrong in my head, but on the podcast. But there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of touch points, potentially like 1,000 in a month that you're doing. What would you say to someone that is skeptical about having that level of volume for sales?
I think you just need to do it. It's a volume game at the end of the day. So the more output you give, the more you're going to get back. And I think there'll be times where you might not want to follow up that person. You've followed them up maybe 3-4 times, but actually they've just got back to you. It's just they've been on holiday for 2 weeks. And they'll appreciate the follow-up as well, especially if there's someone that wants that level of service, because it shows that we care, we're invested in them from the off, and then we continue to deliver that service to them all the way through the trial.
That's it. And if you get 100 leads and you just reach out to them once, so 100 reach outs a month, like you're going to literally get 10 times less of the outcome that you are currently getting. And I see a lot of people do that. They get a lot of leads and they don't even follow up with them more than once, and they're like, why aren't we making any sales? It's like, well, you need to increase the input of what you're doing, right? It's like it's literally just like going to the gym and looking for some sort of outcome. You just need to increase the volume of consistency, and you will kind of get there. So how many hours a day or week are you spending on sales at the moment?
It kind of varies. So on a day where I might be coaching, it could end up being maybe some day, like say if it was like I was coaching quite a lot, maybe someone's on holiday, it could be a couple of hours. On a really good day where I'm just office based, then there might be like a full 8 hours there dedicated to just chasing, marketing, sales.
Nice.
And that's where we see the See the good stuff.
Yeah. and when you're like selling, like, are you doing power hours? Are you just coming in and calling as much as you can? Do you structure it at all? What does that look like?
Yeah, so if I'm on a class schedule, it's like very clearly laid out. I'll know exactly what hours I might be coaching.
Yeah.
So for me, if I know I've got a power hour between 11 and 12 before coaching the next class, then that's the time that I'll then try and deliver.
And are you blocking that out in a calendar? So you've got session at this time, then I've got a power hour. So is that like marked in your like schedule of the day?
Specifically for classes, I won't need to, just because
classes are there. But I mean, like your power hour times, are you marking those times?
Oh, like, gotcha. Yeah, so I'll know like between this hour, like this is going to be most effective. I can't do it say between X time and X time, because I might be having to like change the room around before the next session, for example. So then that kind of hour then turns into like 40 minutes. So I'll try and almost do like more of the fluffy stuff during those smaller times. And then when I need to really get my teeth into something, I'll block that time off.
But I think that there is like a real key lesson in terms of like so many people, a lot of people don't like sales, but it's very necessary. And we all know that, right, to help grow a business. But people don't like doing those reps. And if they don't book it in and they say to themselves, I need to do some today, but it's not blocked out, that can get pushed back and back and it never happens. Like people should be blocking in the time of their day when they're going to start doing some sales, some outreach, some sales development, to start focusing on bringing these leads in and getting them turned into customers. So I think that's really good what you do, that you schedule it out on a daily, weekly basis, and here's the time I'm going to start selling and start making some sales.
Yeah, definitely. I use like a productivity journal as well, so I have like my 3 non-negotiables for the day. So whether that's like I need to hit X amount of calls, or I need to post this on social media or stuff like that, so it helps me to then prioritize exactly what I need to do like day to day and week to week, so then it kind of doesn't get lost. If you tick it off, you're more likely to do something.
Yeah,
and that's what I think anyway.
Are you planning that out individually? Like, are you saying to yourself, this is what I need to do? Or are you having a conversation with someone else? Like, how are you getting those 3 non-negotiables a day? I think
a lot of it will generally come from me, because I'll know what I need to do like day to day based on like what my schedule is. But through talking to Tyler and Jerome, day to days can often change and week to week. Yeah. So it's then factoring in what, might be more pressing matters, other priorities that might need to then be taken during a work week or work day. So yeah, kind of does vary, but a mixture of me and also the gang as well.
Yeah. How do you find overcoming objections? Are you good with the objections, or is it an area you struggle with? Or
well, Luke, if you're watching this, really good. Yeah, Luke, FMA sales guy, like incredible, awesome stuff. So he's really helped me kind of go through the process of structuring what a sales call will look like and being able to handle those objections as well. I think before you kind of almost see it as almost like confrontation, but it's not like that. I think people, like all of us do it, we kind of like make excuses and put things off. And sometimes we just need someone to give us that little nudge and encouragement and support to be like, you can do it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the person who's on the phone or having that meeting wants some sort of change, and they want to believe you that you have the product for them. There's just something that's holding them back, and the question is, what is it? And so many people who haven't been to a gym for years have been telling them a story of why they can't, or why they're not good enough, or why they got this injury or whatever it is. So when they're in that sales position, that story is what they are like fighting against to say yes. And it's the job as a salesperson to really unroot what is holding them back from actually making a decision. Because I do believe that if they are speaking with you for 10, 15, 20 minutes, they want an outcome to this conversation. They're not just spending 20 minutes for a laugh. Like there's something they actually want. So objection handling is actually helping them, if you can really help them, which you guys do know and you've seen so many times. So I think like it's good to be good at sales, and I always like to drill that home, because a lot of people don't necessarily feel that way, or they feel a bit icky around sales.
Don't you put that down to the unknown? Like I remember when I was 1-to-1, it's like I'm not a salesman. I don't want to do that. It's like I didn't know what I was meant to do. Yeah. Now it's like we've got a simple process to follow. It's like it's so easy. Yeah.
You've just raised such an interesting point, which is like when you first came into the business as a coach, you had your coaching hat on, and that was probably your only point of focus there, right? And when someone was to talk to you about sales, you're like, I don't want to do sales. I'm a coach. I don't want marketing. I just want to coach people. But as you have developed, do you feel that you kind of understand the game more and understand what's required for a business to be successful? Because there's a lot of people that in business that struggle, but it's because they, I believe, kind of sit on a maybe like a moral high ground where it's like, I'm a really good coach. I don't want to be a salesman or a marketer. And maybe they are great coaches, but their business is held back by that thought process or belief process. Do you think you had a bit of that at the start where you were a bit resistant to sales and marketing, and you've been able to change your kind of mindset towards it?
Yeah, I think so, because I think you do, like you said, you just want to focus on the coaching. I'm a good coach. If I'm that good, people are going to come to me. It's like, well, it just doesn't work like that. It's like you just have to do that thing, right? You have to make sales. You have to try and get people into your business. They're not just going to rock up, pay for the trial, go in straight into a membership. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, we'd all love it to work that way, but unfortunately, it doesn't.
It's not that easy.
And I think that's a real key lesson for anyone who's listening to this, that is a coach that either works within a gym or wants to progress, is like really start to look at how a business needs to operate to be successful, and maybe try and, of course it's important to be a great coach and deliver a good product, but the longer you have a belief that I don't want to do sales, I don't want to do marketing because I'm a coach and we just want to be great coaches, the longer you're going to be held back in the business, because it's those that are passionate about and have great energy towards sales, which you've just kind of reeled off there, that are the ones that are most successful. And you see that in the numbers and where Madison's is today, like very, very successful gym. I think it's over 400 members or...
Yeah.
You've had some pretty quick growth, haven't you, through like Madison's? Like it's been 3 years, and I know you came from performance projects and probably brought some members over, but 400 members in that one site. I know it's technically 2, but it's kind of one location, right? It's you had some pretty quick growth there.
Yeah, I think what did it go from like 255 to like 400?
Yeah, I gained 150 members last year, and it was
crazy.
Like,
Yeah, that's very good. And we've spoken about sales, and then you started to go on the onboarding process, but I stopped you in your track. So let's go back to it now and dive in. But I'll go over to Tyler, because I feel like is this more in your remit now when the customer comes on board? Or is it still a little bit of both? Or
a little bit of both, but sort of I'll take over from there.
So I've just had a call with Jake. I said I want to think about it. He overcame that objection. I said my wallet's not here. He overcame that objection. I've signed up. he's absolutely closed me like a boss. But so I've signed up. What does that process look like from the moment that I've paid, signed up, the information? Like, run me through that process of what that looks like.
So Jake will finish that call with getting them booked in for the one-to-one. So they've purchased a trial. They've got their one-to-one booked in. From then, it's like, handover, I'm going to take it from here. So they'll do their one-to-one, like Jake said, with a senior coach. It could be myself or Jake or head coach Vincent.
I know we haven't got the full numbers, but it'll either be a one-to-one with you, with yourself, Jake, or it'll be Vincent who's head coach. It's going to be a senior person is that first point of contact. Yeah.
Reason being is because they'll get a session. That person knows more about the business generally, so they might ask questions. Oh, how does the trial work? What else is going to happen? Jake would have run through it anyway, but they might just ask on the off, and not all the coaches are going to know that straight away. So we want to be able to deliver a really good session in that one-to-one, but also answer those questions around, this is how this works, this is where you go for this thing.
Nice. So they had the one-to-one. And just to confirm, is that also like a mini session? So that one-to-one is where they go into the gym and just have like let's say I signed up for your small group personal training, which is 1 to 4. The first meetup will be in the gym, and we're going to run through some basic movements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But generally, it could change, but generally it's a squat, core movement, push and pull.
Yeah,
it's very easy. But the aim there is just to get the person into the gym. So without them going straight into a group, let's do a one-to-one. Give them a bit of comfort. Let them come into it.
Was it always like that? Like, was it ever at a point where they just went straight into small group and you decided to change? Or did you always know that we're going to do a quick one-to-one with them before they start and then move them into the group?
Since I've been here, we've always had the one-to-one.
Cool. Yeah. And the purpose of that is just to, I guess someone could have injuries, right? And then you go, right, this is what I've discovered from this. Their movement pattern isn't as optimal as it could be. They need... You need to be cautious on the way. I don't know.
Yeah. That's exactly. We get to know them. They get to know us. It's a nice, safe environment for them to be in. So, they come in. We'll go through this session. We'll get talking about goals. So we'll take Jake's chat a little bit further. Get them to understand why they're here. What do they really want to work on? Deliver that good session, and they're just going to be comfortable inside the space. Essentially, because they know where everything is. They know when they turn up that the coach is going to greet them at the door. Take the session, they can just switch off, come in, get your good session and go. That one-to-one really allows us to have that good time with someone. Yeah,
and I've seen, disclosure, I train with you guys at the gym, and I've seen a lot of people come in for their first session. And I remember, I can't remember her name, but I was warming up on the bike and she came in next to me And she was like, I am so nervous. So do you get a lot of people that come in very scared on that first session? And the reason I'm mentioning that is that I think that's why it's good to have that one-to-one, because if they are very, very nervous and then they're put into a group, that is going to be a little bit difficult, right?
Yeah, it's just more to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to turn up, even in that one-to-one, people turn up, how are you feeling about today? They go, I'm really nervous. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, and then I'll tell them about what we're going to do in that session. They're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
You do the session. Oh, how are you feeling now? Great.
Yeah.
Like, can't wait to book in that next one. So we've made them feel really comfortable. Then when they come to the group, they're still going to be a bit nervous, but just a little less than they were the first time.
Yeah.
So.
And so they have the one-to-one, they do the session, and then they just go and book into the other sessions moving forward?
Yeah. So we tell people to front load the small group PT.
Yeah.
It's more intimate, they can get more attention and just get started, build that confidence, then start booking into large group where the music's louder, it's bigger groups, less attention.
Yeah. So they start booking in their sessions and they kind of start to come to sessions and progress. What are the next touch points from your guys' point of view? Like, when do you next reach out to them? What does that process look like when it comes to, because they're still kind of in that onboarding phase, right? The early days. What does that look like?
Yeah. So I've got a number of touch points throughout the 30 days that I'll be speaking with them.
How many touch points do you have?
4.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is that day, like what, lay that out for me.
Post one-to-one session.
Yeah.
So if I've taken it or Jake's taken it, next day, check in. Hey, Sandra, just checking in. How was your session with Jake yesterday? Do you have any questions before you book your first small group session?
Yeah.
Something like that. That's immediately after their one-to-one session or the next day.
Yeah.
2 weeks into it, I'm going to check in again. Hey, how you getting on? Just want to touch base. We've got an automated version and we've got a version that comes from me personally. Yeah. There'll be a random call throughout that 30 days as well. Yeah. And then towards the end of the trial, I've got a little sheet where I'm marking them down. I know when they're in that last week, and I can reach out again. Hey, how have you found things?
Nice.
Have you got any thoughts about going forward? There's no pressure, but we're going to sort of start talking about next steps.
And are you doing that entire process of the check-ins by yourself, basically? Is that all on you? But just Yeah, that'll all be me. I'll use Grace, our front of house, to assist with like the admin side of things, but I'll be on the phone making the calls. How do you, like, what's the system you use? Because obviously you've got 30 people coming for a month, and there's 4 there's 4 touch points, right? So there's 120 touch points that you've got to make every single month with these people at a set time. So, there's a lot of moving parts going on there, right? So things could potentially go wrong. How do you keep that organized and make sure you are being able to check in?
Yeah. So I've got a list of the trials. I've literally got columns down, and it's first check in, tick that box. I know 2 weeks later I've got dates written in there already, so I know that Sandra's, I need to check in with her in 2 weeks, and that date is whatever. Yeah. And then I've got the later date when her trial finishes, and I'm just constantly looking at week by week, put it on my personal weekly tracker. So I know I need to speak to Sandra, Bob, Dave and John. Nice. And I'll speak to them this week at this point. Okay, cool. And I'll find that time in my week to make that happen.
And then you said you have a conversation at the end of their 30 days or their 60 days. Does it differ? If it's 60 days, is there more touch points, same, spread out?
It's something I continue to look at. There's inevitably more because they're just here for longer, but I might just keep them more casual. So, when is Sandra training in the gym? Next Thursday. I'll make sure I'll go over and say hello, check in with her in person, see how she's getting on. But something I continue to refine and use the coaches to do that as well. Make sure that everything's going the way we want it.
Nice. And then at the end of that trial period, whether it's 30 or 60, is it you having the conversation about getting them to potentially continue with you rolling forward?
Yeah, they could have it with me. They could have it with Jake.
Nice.
They'll have an automated email with our membership prices of what to do going forward. Yeah. But by that point, I likely know. They're I really like it. I'm thinking I'll do 2 a week.
Yeah. Cool. So they kind of walk themselves through at that point. There's no real, yeah. Is there ever a little bit of like a sales process where someone's like, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I can afford to continue doing it, but I have enjoyed it. Do you ever hear that? Do you have a process to try and overcome that at all when you're on the phone? Or
I think it's pretty much identical to the initial discovery call that you might have when they first come into the business. So you almost take that same framework where you might have to handle objections, kind of follow it. Yeah, you kind of have that introduction, you gather the info, see how they found everything. You'll have that moment where you'll then be kind of almost like objection handling, pitching it to them. And then hopefully from that you're able to I guess like close that deal, and hopefully they've loved the service and will continue from that point. But it's essentially the same, but now that we've built more of a relationship with them and rapport, it's hopefully, I guess, a bit easier, and they've loved what they've done ever since.
Well, I think that there is a real key lesson. Like, you need to approach that conversation with the same framework as you would the first ever conversation that you had with them. The only difference is you've got far more rapport and a relationship with them, but you should still be following that process of asking them questions, checking that what their progress has been, stretching out their goal, like asking them, hey, like, how confident are you that if you continue to do this, you'd be able to get to X, Y, and Z? And then they go, yeah, definitely. And, you know, it just makes it so much easier once that person can see some results and see that if they can, and have a belief that if they continue, they're going to get to the, you know, potentially long-term goal that they want, whatever that may be. And then, sometimes you have those objections. And what would you like? Do you ever get that where it is that sort of financial objection again? So they pay for the trial, but they go, I've really enjoyed it. Like, what would your process be for kind of discussing with them to potentially try and come to a solution?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I guess it's, some people are afraid to ask about things like finances as well, but I think it's, you know, being brave enough to ask them, I guess, you know, things financially, like what are you spending in your, you know, day-to-day week that might be impacting your fitness, and, you know, could that money then be funneled in to invest in yourself more effectively? I think being able to use their finances, framing it as like an investment, and it's only something that's going to help them. I think when it's, you know, the matter of £30 extra a month or something, there's definitely things that can always be done to allow people to then be able to pay for it. Or maybe it's a case of we just need to extend their trial a little bit longer, so it's not dive into a membership straight away. Maybe we could offer like a trial extension, because we're like, okay, if you can't get the money right now, you've got a holiday coming up, I get that. What about if we get you an extension, and then
nice.
You don't have to pay that upfront cost?
So you guys are open to like creative solutions for people that you're speaking to. So if it is a holiday coming up, they don't want to commit because they're going to go away for 2-3 weeks, but well, look, we can extend you for 2 weeks, you can go away, then we can go that, and then it means that you're still keeping them within the community, within the service, and they're going to be invested into you as well.
Yeah, 100%, exactly that. I mean, we just don't want them to leave.
Yeah.
We just had a lady who was going to, I think she was going to New York, and it's like, I don't mind gifting her one session for when she's back, just a little bit. So she's going away for a week. Well, she's not going to train with us for that week, and she's got nothing to come back into. Well, how about we gift you a session and you can book it for the day that you're back? Yeah. She does that. She signs up the next day because she wants to train later that week.
So those are some really good examples of just like creative problem solving, where it's not within the mold of how things normally operate, but based on their situation, you can accommodate them. They feel more looked after. They go, oh, that's really nice, thank you. And then that will actually probably draw them closer to you because you're doing something nice to them as well. So I think those are some really good examples there. So I've been closed by Jake. I've gone through the 30 days. I've just gone on holiday. I've been gifted a session. I've come back, and I'm now on a recurring membership. What is it a little bit more hands off at this point? What's the process like to keep me engaged, essentially?
That's something, again, we continue to revise, because there's 400 people. Yeah. It's to talk to each of those weekly would be a difficult task. So it's something we want to get better at. We want to keep it personal as we can. So something we're continuing to look at, but there'll be check-ins throughout. So I know 4 times a year I'm trying to call each member, literally get on the phone, go through the list, call. And Jake's
so 4 times a year you'll have a call and just try and check in. Yeah,
looking like every 3 months, can I just call this person? Yeah. How's it going? How's your training going? And so recently it's like, what sort of questions can I ask to get better answers? You know, some of those calls, it's, how's your training going? And it's like, yeah, great, I love Madisons. And then 2 months later it's like, oh, I've like hit a bit of a plateau. It's like, oh, maybe we could have got to this 2 months ago. Yeah. And now we're not having this chat. You're just like, oh, I'm so happy with the progress I'm making. I'm loving it here. Yeah. So it's just, in general, that, which I guess helps with retention, is just the amount of time you use to speak to people. Yeah.
Do you know what the retention rate is of just recurring members, like attrition rate wise?
Between 97 to 98%.
Okay, no, that's very good.
Our target is 2%.
Yeah, solid.
Our target is 2% attrition, and
nice.
We're there or thereabouts.
Do you have a way? So obviously 400 members, it's hard to have that one-to-one communication. Do you have a way to flag whether someone is in a bit of a dip or a bit of a rut, or maybe not attending as many sessions. I think I go back a month or two, that was probably me at some point. Our office is literally next door, and I was like, I've got no excuses not to come. And then I'd just be walking past the gym like, but like everyone has these like little ruts and dips in motivation. Like, is there a way that you spot it and are able to address it before they then go, I'm not using it, let me hand in my notice?
Yeah, so through Moments, our app that we use, we can pull reports, attendance sheets, so we can see that Charlie trained, he's on SGPT 12 and he trained 6 times. Like, okay, that's 50%. Let's keep an eye on that. Generally, we'll know you're probably doing an ultra marathon or something. Well,
thank you for mentioning that on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, I did run a 50-kilometre ultra marathon.
So generally, we'll know, but some people just they've disappeared. I'm trying to check in. Oh, hey John, I haven't seen you lately. What's going on? Nothing. It falls flat. So through the attendance sheet and reports, I'll be able to look at that, and then it's just me calling out. That would be a red flag, and I need to call that person quickly because they're not going to pay £300 a month for many months without cancelling.
Yeah, so it's so you can tell by attendance. And then is there you're like, right, we've got these people here. Are you is this something you are doing individually? Is it a team discussion with all the coaches? Like, hey, haven't seen John in a while, what's going on? And maybe someone could go, oh, I actually spoke to him last week. He's got X, Y, and Z, but he's good. Like, what's the communication process like around the clients? Maybe not even just red flags, just like on an ongoing basis. How does that look like?
So in a team meeting on a Monday, we'll have a set period of time where we just talk about members, team updates. It's injuries, it's new sales, it's lapsed members that are leaving us. It's all things members. So we'll spend 30 minutes talking about.
And is that the entire team altogether?
Entire team.
Okay, cool. So 30 minutes, you're all just speaking about what's going on. Are people bringing things to the table that maybe they're not aware of? Like, hey, I spoke to Charlie, he's not been, or whatever it is. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, essentially you've got 7-8 coaches that are coaching you, right? So if Jake's coaching you and you say to him, I'm going to run another ultra, he can report that back in a meeting, and then everyone knows. So everyone's going to gear your training a little bit more to your ultra that you've got coming up. So everyone will have their ears open throughout the week. In that Monday meeting, let's tell the others what's going on with Charlie, John, etc.
And then what happens at 5:30 a.m. every morning? What does the process look like there?
You're showering and you've already changed.
Those days are over. So just set up for the day. So generally people are going to start turning up for their sessions at 10 to the hour. So we need to know that the room is set up, ready to go. So the music's on, the lights are on, the program's ready. Everyone knows who they're going to train that day, what time, what hour they're going to get off. It's general setup. Is this at the standard that we want it at, basically? And
so you guys are having, whoever is in on that day, having a discussion about the upcoming session. So it's like, right, we've got these people are coming in, and do you distribute based on the group that you've got? And like, so you it's not just people book in and then you rock up to the session and just crack on. There's like thought that goes into every day depending on who's in. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah. So it depends on who. So if you're training, and it depends on what your goal. If you're trying to get massive, we're not going to put you with, I don't know, someone that's maybe a bit older that just wants to come in and generally move, because that inside of your small hub, that's not an environment that's very conducive for your goals. You want to be around people that are also trying to get massive.
Yeah.
So when we're writing out the morning, it's okay. Let's put Charlie with Jake. Those guys are trying to send it. So so that's one of our thoughts. And there's also the social aspect. These people are really going to get on, and we've known that 6, 7 a.m. you'll get groups that are formed in Madisons and building communities that are just unbelievable.
Yeah, and what you guys have done a really good job of is, like, do you call it small group personal training or just personal training? Because for me, I look at it like personal training. And the reason I say that, obviously it's groups of 4, but I come in and most of my interaction with the coach, I'm not really speaking with anyone else in that group. And I was wondering whether, like, is that how it usually is? Like, it's just like a PT session, or have I just got some like social issues where I'm not speaking to anyone in the group going on, basically? But like, because it seems like it's not like a group session. It's like, for me, I see it as a one-to-one with the coach, but they're also just coaching 3 other people simultaneously.
Yeah, and I think that's the service you want. So hopefully you feel like you're receiving that.
Yeah.
So, but other people do like that social. They want to be sort of partnered up with their mate. So
they have that there. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like tailored around the So I always just view it as personal training. And do you call it personal training, or is it small group in your
small
eyes?
group.
Yeah.
It's
Still,
I feel like it would be wrong of us to advertise as just personal training, but we want to make small group personal training as personal as possible.
Yeah. But I feel like if I was one-to-one with someone, there's no other benefits I would get from the session. That's how like I perceive the sessions that I do with you guys. Like it's got all the personalization I need. I can come in and be like, could we do a bit of a focus on this today? And that's always accommodated. Like the only difference is like the amount of time that someone is like looking at me because they're spending time with those 4 other people. But I see it as very similar. Something else I've noticed as well, but I think you guys do really well, is I don't care which coach I go with. And I think that a lot of gym owners probably have this where they are the coach, they are the star of the show, and then they get a new person in and then they go, I like training with this person, or I like training with that person, or maybe there's like one personality that people really like and then others where they're like, I prefer training with this person. But personally, I find that whoever it is, it's the same quality, the same standards met. There's no difference. I'm not like, not that person. Is that something that you have worked on to do where you don't want a star of the show, right? You want everyone to be equal on the pitch. Is that something you've worked to do, or is that just happened? Or
I think Jerome mentioned it in his podcast, something like that. I think you all have your personalities, and someone might prefer training with Jake because of his energy. So I think you're going to get that to a degree, but I guess like what you said with the quality and the standards overall, I feel like you can just avoid any sort of favoritism. And when we write out the mornings, no coach is going to always train this person. They're always going to train with someone different.
And I think through testament to Vince as well, like putting together the CPD plan that we're following as well. I think where we are all
talk about that as well.
So we're kind of all singing from the same hymn sheet to allow us to all thrive in the same way and deliver that quality of service that everyone's expecting from each and every coach as well. I think probably maybe from a business standpoint as well, you might have small group gym owners who might like the fact that multiple people are coaching different people as well for a retention standpoint for your members as well. Because if you did have a coach who was just coaching the same people day in, day out, I don't know, say if they ever left, for example, then you might have pockets of people who would be like, let's go follow so-and-so. I'm sure that, that's not kind of why we do it. That's an honest...
that's such a good point. If I was training with the same person every session, every week, and I got really used to them, then they left, then all of a sudden that's a big shift and change, and people don't necessarily naturally like change. Whereas because every single session I am generally with someone different, but I see them all frequently, if one of them were to leave, it's not a big of a hit in my habits and routines and how it goes, because I'm frequently spending time with each coach. So that's actually quite a good way to look at it as well, right? It's not like I'm just spending every single time with this person.
Can get boring as well. Can you imagine having to me coach you every day?
Too much energy.
I'm just trying to chill, bro.
I was going to say at 6 a.m. I'm barely awake. And so you mentioned CPT, and that's really, really important. Like, what is it you guys do? Like, you guys talk about a lot of interesting stuff like throughout the week. So how's that structured? And kind of walk me who delivers it. Just walk me through what that looks like on a weekly basis, or is it weekly or?
So every Wednesday. So we have our general team meeting on a Monday, which is about members and general updates. And every Wednesday we have CPD delivered by Vincent, head coach. He's been working with Greg Slater, who Jerome's invested in to mentor.
He worked to Lift the Bar for ages, didn't he? He's very respected in the industry.
So Jerome gets on with well. He's invested in him to mentor Vince. And therefore feedback everything to the team.
That's very cool.
They've built out a whole curriculum that will be probably till the end of this year, I think.
Wow.
And every Wednesday we'll go through certain bits. So
that's so cool. Because also he's getting Vincent's one-to-one learning, and then all that information is then being delivered as well. So it's almost like the whole team are getting that service. But it's great for Vincent to probably learn and then deliver that, like from a teacher perspective, and then everyone else gets to get that. So and so it's like a whole curriculum that's been created by Vince and Greg.
So at the beginning of the year, we had a questionnaire with like what's important to Madisons, what's important to be like a good coach in general, and then we all clashed heads, built out this picture of what we thought was important, and then from there they built out this curriculum, and it's just been able to teach us everything, get everyone to a certain standard that we think is important to.
And what is important? Like what was like? So you kind of mentioned like clashed heads, but what was like, what were the things that you were like, we want to improve this, what was the criteria for you guys?
I think the biggest thing early on was like intensity through sessions. Like you can't come into a session, just go through the motions. Like you're not going to pay us to do that. So the two biggest things I'd say were intensity and then like exercise mechanics of really taking your knowledge to the next level.
Yeah.
Because then you can just deliver a session that is just unbeatable sort of anywhere else unless people have that same knowledge. So I'd say those two things were the biggest.
Nice. And do any other team members contribute to the CPD, or is it just Vincent for now, or is there ever time that someone else will teach something? Or
I think as part of their CPD, they will get, like Vince will get each coach member to deliver to the group as well.
Okay, cool.
So it's not just the opportunity for them to learn from him, but it's also to teach to the group as well. So it's great for their development from a coach standpoint, receiving information, but also how they then distribute that in a clear and concise way, which will then translate into how they coach their members as well. And
is that the main way that the newer coaches are being developed? Like from there, so I know you've got a new person who I think has been qualified for a couple of years, but has only been coaching for 2 months or so. But doing a great job, and I think I mentioned that to you actually off the podcast. But I didn't realise it was only 2 months because it just seemed like the quality was still there. Like when let me change that and let's kind of go back. Let's kind of move to hiring, developing those people and getting those people, because I think that's kind of where we're going with this CPD side of things. So let's kind of move on quickly to like the hiring process. Are you interviewing? Are you guys interviewing? What does that process look like now?
We've both done it in the past. I've done it with the new recruits recently. It all starts off with a very casual chat. So the application comes in, let's just talk. Very casual. I'll have some questions that I want to find out, but basically on that chat is this person like a good person?
Yeah.
It's all going to start there.
Are they nice?
Are they going to fit in with our culture?
And it's not really at that point, I guess, about their coaching ability, because the new person you have has only been there for 2 months or so, right? So
we believe we can make anyone a good coach.
Yeah.
Are they a good person, and can they do all the other stuff? Treat people nicely and just be a good human.
Nice. So you have that first initial informal conversation. Then what's the next step after that?
It would progress into coming into the facility, seeing what we do. At that point, our conversation is this for you? Like, we're going to show you what we do. You can train with us. You can see everything. You can talk to people. Is this what you want? And then we'll take it further from there.
Okay, cool. And then, so phone call, come in. Are they then offered, or is there then another step they have to go through beforehand, or is it vary, or?
Kind of changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'll be like case by case, case by case at that point, because you might just want to talk to that person a little bit more based on a few things they've said before. Or you might just be ready to straight out offer them the job. Yeah. You might be like, let's go. This is what it is.
And does Jerome still meet everyone that comes in, or some of those hires being purely you now?
So the first one recently, all me from start to finish, was Grace, our front of house.
Yeah,
who's
nice.
She's doing really well, which makes me happy.
Yeah.
So that was the first one I've taken from start to finish, and he didn't see her until she started that day, which was
great.
Pretty cool for me. And he sort of sent me a message after saying like, that's a big moment for you, so congrats, but also
it's also
a huge moment for me.
Yeah, I was about to jump in, a big moment for him.
Yeah,
because staffing for gym owners is often a big issue, and to be able to have zero involvement and walk in on day one and see a new staff member at the desk ready to go, that is very big. So that's like a huge responsibility that's taken off him as a business owner for you to be able to do. So that is very, very cool. And so when someone, and to go more specifically for the coaches that are new, they interview, you give them the job. What does that onboarding process look like for a new coach at Madison's?
I think a lot of them will go through the assessment of like our product as well. So before they actually start coaching or we shadow their sessions and bits and bobs, they'll be taking part in as many sessions as possible. So they might have done that prior to actually accepting the job, but if not, then they will make sure that they've attended like every single class that we offer, been coached by each of the different coaches as well to assess, the different styles of coaching, but to see how everyone else does it. So they can get a good understanding of what they've walked into as well. And it kind of changes, I guess, depending on if they're looking at large group and like small group training. So I'll often look after a lot of people if they're diving into the large group side of things, and then Tyler, Vince will then look after them when they're kind of moving into like the smaller group side of things.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like developing almost like the Madisons method or the blueprint, so to speak, that all the coaches will be able to follow. It will be something that will relate to things like the flow of the session, the energy of the session, the personalization, and the intensity that Tyler also spoke about as well. So I think when we are taking them through the onboarding process, we're constantly hammering those pillars back to home and being like, okay, these are the key things to be looking for during your session. So for me, when it's like looking at large group, they'll come and spectate a lot of my sessions. So they'll start with the shadowing. There'll be a coach with them who will shadow whilst they watch, and then we'll almost have like a tick box of, these are the things to be looking out for whilst Jake is coaching and delivering a large group session. And those could be...
And are these good things to look out for? Like, these are things you should be doing within a session. What are those things that you like? So you're shadowing someone, you're kind of noting down, you're ticking the boxes. What are those boxes that are to be ticked?
I think the small things like the customer service elements, so small things like making sure that the music's at a good level, the lighting's on, but also that the coaches are waiting by the door to greet members when they come in. Take a note that Jake knows every single member's name, and we'll say that when they enter. Hi Sally, blah 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 blah. And it's because we care as well. Obviously we want to engage them, welcome them, and get their session off to a flying start. So I think that will be one element, those small customer service touch points. You'll then look at things like the energy of the session. So making sure, particularly in a large group, that it's not going to be flat. So, watch Jake's session and make sure that the music's pumping. He's got the right playlist on for the start.
They've got big shoes to fill there.
Yeah. Try and match the energy.
But yeah, just making sure like it's pumping and like I'm walking around the room, giving everyone attention. That's kind of where the energy plays into it. The intensity, which Tyler touched on, it's making sure that they're having a good hard session as well, and making it varied. So whether we do that through the exercise selection that we give the members, or maybe Tyler's going to get the coach to watch me get someone through like a drop set, for example, or take a set to failure. So how are you going to get a little bit more value for those members to make sure that they have a banging session? And then the third thing, even in a large group setting, we want to be able to personalize the session. So even though we're not in that small group environment, if someone comes in with an injury or they haven't done a particular movement before, we're going to make sure that they're looked after. There's no worry there. We can work around it. We can get you from A to B if your form's not quite there yet. And it's just going to be.
And is that the same for the small group? And so are you looking for slightly different things there at all, or?
They're very similar. It just looks different inside of that session. So on the small group side, like Jake said, it's personalization, it's intensity, energy, delivery, communication, all of those things, but they just look different inside of both studios. So Studio 2, where large group takes place, that energy is, like Jake, through the roof. The energy inside small group PT would just be more intimate.
Yeah.
So the room it's the music's at a good level, but the way you're talking to someone is very intimate. It's personal. It's not like, hey gang, this is what we're going to do. It's, hey Charlie, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's just the way you draw those things out. So similar principles across both, but they just look slightly different.
And how long is the probation period of the new person coming on board?
3 months.
Still going through
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
It was 3 years. What?
It'd be three months.
Nice.
Unless
And
you're a special case.
yeah. And are there any like red flags that you are not looking for but can spot and go, is this person going to be the right fit for us? It might that there might be a good person and a good personality and even a good coach, but maybe it's just something that's not the right fit for us and what we do. Are there any things that you kind of see or look out for that you don't want to see? Or
I don't know if it's our cautious approach, but I don't think I've ever experienced that with any one of our coaches. Maybe later down the line, like being late is just a no-go.
Yeah.
So for us, if you're late, that's a red flag. If you're late twice, you're probably gone. So because there's no excuse for things like that. So.
Yeah, and then kind of, well, I guess I'd about to say staff development. Obviously, you two are staff members, and you've been able to develop within the role. And then Vincent is now head coach. And then how does that work? Like, is it, we kind of touched on this earlier, where you wanted to get into sales, you wanted to develop there. So are these just individual conversations where you're finding out what people's strengths are, what they enjoy, where they may like to go? Like, how does that look for the other team members there as well? Like, in terms of a development path, are some people in the business, just going to be great coaches, and maybe they won't develop further, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because that's what they love doing? Like, how does that look on an individual basis for the team?
Yeah. So through those monthly chats I'll have with the team, we're going to talk about things like, where's your development going? What do you see yourself doing in 3 months' time, in 12 months' time? And then you start to build a picture. So I remember Vince had been in the role for 9 months, and we was having a chat about what he wanted longer term. He's like, well, I want your job. And I was head coach at the time. I was like, okay, well, fine.
Yeah.
And then it's like working with Joe, actually, well, I don't want to be an educator, but this guy does. So how can I make him as good as he can be to take that role, do that thing, and I'll do something else. Nearly lost myself a job out of that. But but yeah, find another one.
Yeah. And let's move on to more of the delivery of the programming and the sessions that you take place. So let's go for small groups. So how is that decided in terms of like who does the programming? How's that decided? What does that process look like?
Small group side is all Vince. So he'll draft it and constantly speak to the team about, how is this to coach? What did you like about the last program? What did you dislike? And he'll just draft out something new, and then they'll constantly go through it. After they've done that session once or twice, they know that bangs or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Either way, and it's just constantly refining what we're doing.
And how much autonomy do the coaches get on a session-to-session basis? So obviously the workouts on the board when people, or on the TV screen when people come in, but it seems to me that in a good way there's a lot of flexibility for the coach. It's not you have to deliver this, but they do have to deliver on certain outcomes of the session, but they can do that in different ways potentially.
Yeah, I think deliver on all those things we spoke about, those principles of the session, the intensity, the energy. Inside of that, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
We've got our philosophy, so they know what's important to Madisons. When we talk about mechanics, like you're not going to see the classic like Bosu ball standing on that doing squats and stuff. Like the exercises you choose, you're going to be able to explain why you chose that thing.
Yeah.
But inside of that session, we trust the coaches with the development they've had with us. They can deliver a good session. They've got all the information. They can change your session for your goal, Jake's for his and mine for mine. Yeah,
so the coach, so I could walk in the sessions on the board, I could do a completely different thing based on whether I'm having a bad day or a different goal, or maybe I've done a lower body session already or whatever it is. They're allowed to change it 100%. Yeah, as long as it falls within the line of the principles. Yeah. And I guess because it's not a class, right? It's not a session. It's PT. So yeah, and then on the other side you got the classes, which is more structured in that sense.
Yes, I mean, so initially within the first kind of maybe year and a half, I'd look after like the programming solely. So it was quite a big responsibility to program for each different type of class concepts, but where we've got more coaches in the team that also have different strengths now, we'll have coaches that might program specifically for strength classes, coaches that will just program specifically for cardio classes, and then we like spread that load across the team. So I, at the moment, will look after things like Super Saturday and Metcon, whereas Lily's been doing a lot of like the strength classes, like the hustles, the grinds, those kind of things, as well as the other gang taking on other various sessions as well. We do have like a framework where if we are coaching a large group session, particularly something like a cardio class where there is one coach working with up to maybe 24 people at a time, we want to make sure that the movements are programmed correctly and safely as well. And it also allows the room to flow effectively. We can't program various different things because then it would impede like the actual flow of the session and the quality of the coaching we're able to deliver. So there'll be some like complete like no-goes, like we can't program this with this because there's not enough space in the room. Or we can't program a hinge with a hinge and a hinge and a hinge because that person's back's going to be blown out. So I think it's just being able to pair movements correctly with each other to get the most out of them, but to allow us to do our job effectively as well and look after the client.
And have you had that where like you program a session in the class and through doing it you're like this doesn't work, like it's not flowing how it should be, like is there any examples of like movements where you go it can't work simultaneously? Because with those sessions, and I suppose it depends which one we're talking about, but let's say it's like a hustle session, right? Like you're trying to get an amount of intense volume with resistance training within a certain amount of time, and you've got to be on the time, essentially. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So are there some movements that you just can't do together, essentially?
I think, if we take like our hustle session today, for example, we had deadlifts as one of our primary movements.
Yeah.
We wouldn't then pair that with something that's going to be equally as intense, because then it will take away from the quality of that main movement.
Yeah.
So we always aim to pair a big movement with something that's going to be accessory or core based, just so it doesn't take away from it. Members also have the option to completely miss that accessory or core movement, so they can then focus on really truly lifting big numbers on their main move.
Okay, cool.
And then the structure of the session is always going to be full body, so it might be a push and a pull. There might be some sort of like squat or single leg pattern in there as well. So everyone's going to be working all their muscle groups, but it's paired specifically to make sure that it doesn't hinder the opposing muscle group, basically. So there'll be some sort of like contrast there between the exercises that will partner together.
So you're sales, but also head of sales and community. So when it comes to that community aspect, what are your responsibilities when it comes to community?
So at the moment, it's kind of ongoing. So it's a new role for me, but I think the big ones at the moment will be things like the run club, the organisation of that.
Yes.
Making sure that we have coaches available to take it if I can't do it myself. Also to get the promotion out there and engage people to come and join the Madison's Run Club community.
That's free
too.
for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
free
you
for
don't have to
everyone.
be a member to the Run Club, and it's Friday morning outside the venue, and then you do one on a Sunday morning on Brighton seafront.
In Brighton as well,
Yeah.
exactly that. So that will be part of it. It's also going to be things like brand relations with like Lululemon at the moment.
Yeah.
So recently got onboarded as an ambassador. So through that, we're able to have a collaboration between Madison's and Lululemon, where we can have that brand as part of our community as well, and benefit from that, but also then help Lululemon to get their name out there, as well as make those meaningful connections and have something to talk about. So It's all about getting people active, and I think that community aspect isn't just about the community internal to Madison's, but also the community outside of Madison's who want to join in, who might not necessarily have the means to train with us, but want that little taste. And I think it kind of links into that thing that Jerome said in his previous podcast, like being able to dominate the postcode dominate the postcode. So I think that's part of the job as well, is to dominate the postcode, but also use the community events as well to engage members, keep them active, and then keep people's eyes on us too.
What's interesting, because when I say community, most people think of their members and basically creating connections, and you're thinking of that, but also outside of that with things like Lululemon and the run clubs, and externally as well as internally. And then when it comes to internally, how many social events do you put on a year? Like in terms of get-togethers, how many do you guys do?
There's no set number really, is there? We'll discuss on like what we want to do that year, early in the year. So Halloween and Christmas and the summer social have always been three big ones.
And then you'll do like quiz nights.
Yeah,
you'll do
random.
Certain like session, like workout, but they're community events. So it's like you're going to do like a special type of session, and then there's food afterwards. So there's a lot of those that go on as well, right?
Yeah, classic Friday night lights.
Yeah. Nice.
Physical events, social events, all of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Ideally, we'd have like one a month.
Yeah.
One a month, really. That would be the long term goal.
Nice. And how many people do you get attending those events on average?
Ooh, pops off sometimes.
I think it's been really good, especially over the last year. I think it's been pretty good, and like depends on what we'll have to cap it at something. But for a Friday night lights, 50 to 60 people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Summer socials, 100.
Wow.
Christmas
so-
party's huge as well.
Yeah,
That
Christmas
one's like-
party.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The quiz night was brilliant that we done recently. That was good turnout. So
Yeah. Nice. Just to move in a bit of a different direction, obviously you've moved into a leadership role. What have you learned about leadership in the last couple of, you've only been doing this for a year or so, this job role? Like, have you had to kind of step up in that way of leadership?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's ongoing, but something I've realised recently is that time is everything. So especially with the team, it's like me spending time with them is so valuable, because I need a good relationship to help drive performance, basically. So without spending enough time with them, it's like we're not going to have that relationship. So I think that's probably been the biggest lesson that I've learned more recently.
Is just spend more time.
Yeah.
Essentially what you did with Jerome, right? Like you spent loads of time with him, but almost by accident. Whereas for you, it's just like, can I replicate that and just spend more time with the people around me and just show that I'm there and they can absorb and we can create a connection as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think leading by example. I was speaking to one of the coaches the other day. So in that coach role, I think all you can do is lead by example. So if you're junior coach, senior coach, whoever you are, do your best and let everyone see that you're operating at a level that no one else can. So it's like, this guy's like hot on it. He's delivering his sessions, their class. He's checking in with members. He's making sure everyone's getting the service that Madison's wants to provide. For a coach, anyone listening, I think that's the most important thing. Anyone in like a leadership role, it's going to be a little bit different. But on the gym floor, those junior coaches, senior coaches, just lead by example. Be the best.
Have you ever had to deal with any sort of like conflicts at all, maybe on a minor scale, or any situations where you've had to have a hard conversation, which maybe wasn't fun to have, but you've had to at all, or not yet?
I would say naturally they would fall into they would be like awkward conversations, but I don't think, for me, that I don't mind those. They seem okay because it's like, if you have that relationship, it's easy. It's like, why you're underperforming is the important thing.
Yeah.
So if it's just a simple standards thing, it's like, okay, dude, that's not good enough. Let's sort that out. Yeah. That's quite easy because it's...
What's a marker that you could look at and go, they're not performing? Because a lot of, what we've spoken about are kind of energy and vibes. So it's not like there's no number there. It's like, you can't be like, yeah. So how do you like... Is it a general sense, or when you're shadowing a session? Yeah, what are the things you're looking for that may indicate that someone's underperforming?
I think ultimately it is objective, and we're trying to get it to a point where it's like, okay, you didn't do that thing. Yeah. So then that scored your session a little bit lower. We're trying to get to that point, but ultimately I think you can see if someone's like not themselves. Yeah. And then it's my job to be like, what's going on? It's always going to start with that. What's going on? You're not feeling too good. You're fine. Okay, well, I'm noticing this. It's always going to start with that, basically. But the goal is to get to a point where everything is just like, you didn't do this thing. We want it to be at this standard. So you know that, we know that. We're very clear on the goal and the standard, and it should be followed.
Yeah. I think through the app that we use as well, where members can review each of their sessions as well, it's quite like a powerful tool to also praise the people that are doing well, which is everyone, because we're smashing it. But it's a good indicator there to be like, oh, what didn't pop about that session? And someone might write, oh, maybe the music wasn't quite good. So there might be like smaller touch points.
Yeah, so in this app you use, members can review but also give feedback of the sessions. And are they giving the feedback of the sessions? Are you starting to get that come through?
Yeah. So we do see it regularly. So I'll often scroll through it and be like, oh, this is nice. So-and-so's done really well here, and bits and bobs. But it's just a great way to see what we're doing well, or if there is, I guess, any things that need to be addressed as well. And like Tyler said, it could be a one-off thing. Maybe someone's not having a great day, or maybe it's a consistent thing, which luckily we haven't seen through that feedback.
Yeah, because some things can just be like, oh, this is a one-off, but if you can see a pattern, then you can look to fix that, basically. Nice. What's is that the booking software called Circle?
Moments?
Moments is what you use. Yeah, and that's where everyone can communicate with you as well. Like it's got instant messenger in there. Yeah, I've used it a couple of times. I get a response pretty quickly, which is very good. Yeah. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the show, because I feel like we've covered quite a lot here, a lot to digest. But I want to kind of have one last question again to wrap things up. What would you say to any gym owners that are either looking to hire their first team members or looking to develop their staff? From your experience of what you guys have been through and how you developed, what would be a good piece of advice for other gym owners to know, but when it comes to hiring and developing their team?
I think most important is finding the right person, and finding the right person for you. So you could find a good coach, but actually they're quite good for this facility down the road. They're not for us. So first and foremost, I would say find the right people. And then it's two things. It's either being clear with exactly what you want them to do and the standards that they need to withhold, or spend more time with them. I think it comes down to those two, essentially.
Nice. And Jake, anything on any thoughts you have?
Yeah, I think if you're a gym owner and you want A-star people, then you need to, one, deliver like an A-star product. You need to be an A-star person yourself as well, because people want to aspire to be that person, and also be able to serve and follow. So I think that's the most important thing. So I think looking internally at yourself as like a person, but also like what you're delivering to, and then if it's on point, then people are gonna come and join the fun.
Yeah, I lied, and I often do this because I then get more questions that come to mind. So has Jerome got very high standards of how he likes things?
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, definitely. And it just brings the best out of us as well. He's always fair, but also firm as well. So like we have those chats and make sure that feedback's always taken on board, and there's never any beef about it, because it's only out of like a place of care and like want to push you on to this next level. That's what we're all trying to get out of each other, right?
And like if you're driving the ship, it's like you need to set the standard for yourself, and then also let that sort of funnel down to the others, right? So
yeah, and it looks like he's done a good job of that. Like, it looks like you carry the standards that he wants to uphold as well.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to get lost somewhere. He's going to be frustrated with his overall team, or someone's going to underperform at the end of the day. But yeah, if you are that gym owner, you need to sort of look at yourself and think, how do I want to operate, and how do I want my staff to operate?
Nice. Well, I think that was a very good last statement to end on. So, boys, thank you for coming onto the FMA podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I will see you very, very soon, because I'm probably going to train tomorrow. So, thank you, boys, and we'll go ahead and wrap this out.
Nice, I appreciate it.
Thank you, mate.
Nice. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.